The House will come to order. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Representative Wynn.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Schiebel, please call the roll.
Representatives Bacon, Barone, Basenecker, Bottoms, Bradfield, Bradley, Brooks, Brown, Caldwell, Camacho, Carter, Clifford, DeGraff, Representative DeGraff,
Excused.
Duran, English, Rep. English, is excused. Espinoza, Representative Espinoza,
Excused.
Ferre, Rep. Ferre,
Excused.
Flanell, Froelich, Garcia, Garcia Sander, Gilchrist, Goldstein, Gonzalez, Hamrick, Hartsook, Jackson, Johnson, Joseph, Kelty, Leader, Lindsay, Luck, Lukens, Mabry, Marshall, Martinez, Brett Martinez is excused. Morrow, McCormick, Wynn, Pascal, Phillips, Richardson, Ricks, Representative Ricks,
Excused.
Rutinell, Ryden, Sirota, Slaw, Smith, Soper, Stewart K, Stewart R, Story. She was also here. Okay. Sukla, Taggart, Titone, Rep. Valdez is excused. Rep. Velasco is excused. Weinberg,
Present.
Wilford, Winter, Woodrow, Woog, Zokai, and Madam Speaker.
With 60 present, 5 excused, we do have a quorum. Representative Wynn.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is an honor to serve with you.
It is an honor to serve with you.
Madam Speaker, did you know that Broomfield County is the newest county at the state?
I did not. Tell me more.
With that said, being the newest county here, we're asking for a motion. I move the Journal of Monday, March 9th, 2026 to be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
Members, you've heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor for a new county and this motion, say aye. All those in favor of this motion, say aye. All those opposed, no. No! The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Wow. Members, we will do announcements and introductions. Representative Garcia.
Good morning, members. It is my absolute honor to welcome the most best, raddest, awesomest students ever in the entire state from Sandoval Elementary Student Government, right over there. Woo!
Thank you, Rep. Good morning, students. Representative Mabry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Judiciary Committee members, 15 minutes upon adjournment. We're going to meet in room 107. We're going to hear House Bill 1186, Senate Bill 74, House Bill 1232, and Senate Bill 11. 15 minutes upon adjournment, 107.
Thank you. Representative Taggart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It is an honor to serve with you.
Today, I want to recognize the folks on the seats across to my right. They represent the Western Slope Republican women who have traveled here from Mesa County, Delta County, and I believe Montrose County, and Uray County. Thank you. This organization plays an important role in encouraging civic engagement and helping people stay informed about the policies shaping their communities. Through regular meetings, educational speakers, and community involvement, they work to bring people together and encourage participation in the legislative process. And I very much appreciate them traveling 4 to 5 hours to get here, differing from folks from Denver who think the Western Slope is 8 hours away. I appreciate them coming. And I ask that if you stand so we can recognize you.
Thank you, representatives. Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know I owe $1. Tomorrow is another water workshop for all those that are interested in water. Really interesting subject. It's going to be on severance tax funding and the Upper Colorado River Recovery Program overview. It will be from 11:30 to 1:15 upstairs in Senate Committee Room 354. So if you're interested in severance tax and the Upper Colorado River Recovery Program, please attend.
Thank you. Representative Gilchrist.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health and Human Services Committee will meet today 10 minutes upon adjournment in room 112 to hear the following bills in order: 1229, 1241, 1244, 1262, 1249, and 1105. We'll see you there.
Thank you. Representative Froelich.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee will meet in LSBA 10 minutes upon adjournment for 4 bills: 1237, 1266, 1239, and 1209.
Thank you. Seeing no, one more announcement, Rep. Froelich.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Students, please welcome students from Charles Hay World School in Englewood, apparently the second best set of students visiting the Capitol today.
Can't they just all be the best students? Right? All students everywhere. We love them all. Thank you, Rep. Froelich. Members, I'll invite you to take your seats, please. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions.
Seeing no objection, we will proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions. Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move for the immediate consideration of Senate Joint Resolution 11.
Seeing no objection, we will proceed to the immediate consideration of Senate Joint Resolution 11. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 11.
Senate Joint Resolution 11 by Senators Marchman and Kirkmeyer, also Representative Basenecker, concerning designation of a portion of U.S. Highway 34 between Wilson Avenue and North County Road 23H in memory of Sergeant John Jack Thurman.
Speaker Pro Tem Basenecker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
It is an honor to serve with you.
I move Senate Joint Resolution 26011.
And would you like for that to be read?
No, Madam Speaker, if it's all right, we will just offer some brief remarks.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Colleagues, today we have the privilege of honoring a Coloradan whose life reflects extraordinary courage, service, and dedication to his country and his community. That Coloradan is Sergeant Jack Thurman. And this resolution is to designate a portion of U.S. Highway 34 between Wilson Avenue and North County Road 23H in his memory. Sergeant Thurman enlisted in the United States Marine Corps on his 18th birthday and would go on to fight in one of the most consequential battles of World War II, the Battle of Iwo Jima. As a part of the 5th Marine Division, he landed in the first wave on Red Beach and served as an advanced infantry sniper, helping to secure terrain and protect his fellow Marines under incredibly dangerous conditions. During that battle, he was wounded by mortar fire, a reminder of the immense sacrifices made by the folks who fought there. But Sergeant Thurman's service did not end when the war did. After returning home, he built a life here in Colorado as an architect and designer, contributing to projects that continue to shape our communities and memorialize the sacrifices of those who served. Resolutions like this remind us that history is not just something written in books. It lives in people around us. Sergeant Thurman represents a generation that stepped forward when the world needed them most. Today, we express our deep gratitude for his bravery, his service to our nation, and the legacy he leaves here in Colorado. We thank him for his service to our country, and we thank all who have served. I urge an aye vote on the resolution.
Representative Marshall.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
It is an honor to serve with you.
So there's a ethos and saying in the Marine Corps that once a Marine, always a Marine. So as the senior Marine present, I believe it was proper for me to make a few remarks quickly on this Marine who we know as just a Marine, but not just any Marine, a Marine who was at Iwo Jima. Those of you who have seen the statue know the famous statement from Admiral Nimitz that uncommon valor was a common virtue. And I met a few Iwo Jima Marines, and I could give stories, but we don't have time. I think that's inappropriate, but one that I didn't personally have. But one of the individuals that's on the flag waving, or the flag raising of Iwo Jima, they found out decades later was misidentified. And it took a lot for the Marine Corps to admit they ever made a mistake, but they did. And when they went back and they talked to the daughter of the individual who had passed on earlier, she said he had never mentioned it but once in his entire life. He was a postal worker, and in 1977 they were having a documentary on Iwo Jima, and it came up with the flag raising, and he just looked at her and said, yeah, I was one of those, but others gave far more. But every one of those gave far more than any of us, so it's proper that we do recognize them. Thank you.
Speaker Pro Tem Basenecker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We aren't going to display them this morning, but I do have some pictures that you might like to see of Sergeant Thurman on Iwo Jima, serving with his fellow veterans. And we certainly just, I think, would be remiss if we didn't take every opportunity to honor those who have served so bravely and on behalf of all of us. So thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 11. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Weinberg, how do you vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Weinberg votes yes. Representative English, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative English votes yes. Please close the machine. With 61 ayes, 0 no, and 4 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 11 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Members, we are moving to third readings. I'll invite you to take your seats. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over House Bill 1130 until tomorrow.
House Bill 1130 will be laid over until tomorrow. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of House Bill 1213.
House Bill 1213 by Representatives Smith and McCormick, also Senator Wallace, concerning the continuation of the Biomass Utilization Grant Program and in connection therewith, implementing the recommendation contained in the 2025 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies to repeal the Biomass Utilization Grant Program.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move House Bill 1213 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 1213 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Weinberg, how do you vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Weinberg votes yes. Representative English, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative English votes yes. Madam Majority Leader. Please close the machine. With 61 ayes, 0 no, 4 excused, House Bill 1213 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1185.
House Bill 1185 by Representatives Carter and Clifford, also Senator Roberts, concerning the continuation of the Cold Case Task Force and in connection therewith, implementing the recommendations of the Department of Regulatory Agencies and the Department's 2025 Sunset Report, including authorizing the Executive Director of the Department of Public Safety to appoint additional members to the task force, continuing the task force for 13 years, and changing the type of sunset review that is conducted by the department.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move House Bill 1185 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 1185 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Weinberg, how do you vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Weinberg votes yes. Representative English, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative English votes yes. Marshall. Please close the machine. With 61 ayes, 0 no, 4 excused, House Bill 1185 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 7.
Senate Bill 7 by Senator Mullica, also Representatives Leader and Foray, concerning the use of medical marijuana by terminally ill patients in health facilities.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 7 on third reading and final passage.
Representative Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, again, I just want to commend the sponsors who work on this bill. This is a good bill. I think we should be able to give patients who are terminally ill and other conditions an option to have alternative methods of treatment, and that includes cannabis, as you know. And so, I just can't stress enough the importance of this bill for my district, for my community, for the people that I represent. I went back to my district, and they were very excited about this for people who have an opportunity to do this. So I encourage an aye vote on this bill. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 7 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Weinberg, how do you vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Weinberg votes yes. Representative English, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative English votes yes. Please close the machine. With 49 aye, 12 no, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 7 is adopted. Co-sponsors. please close the machine? Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1137.
House Bill 1137 by Representatives Titone and Garcia, also Senator Cutter, concerning requirements for persons engaged in campaign consulting.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move House Bill 1137 on third reading and final passage.
Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I understand the issue here, and I understand, but seriously, do we need to legislate absolutely everything? We are the number 6, and I get the goal of always being number 1, but being number 1 most regulated state in the country is probably not something to which we should aspire. But it's things like this that take us there. So this is a contractual issue. This is something that does not need the nanny state or the Karen state. This does not need to be taken directly to the manager. Right? This is something that can be worked out. If you're going to do a political campaign, you are going to hire a political hired gun, then you would probably be best to understand that they might have other campaigns and other things that they're working on. That is what they do. Now, can they maintain a sense of objectivity? They would probably assert yes, that they can maintain a sense of objectivity because they likely don't care about the outcome of anything other than the fact that they get paid. So that is something that needs to be worked out. Tried to put an amendment in there that if they have both parties sign off that say, hey, you have conflicting interests, you're running against each other. We're going to run a campaign for the best that we can, to pit you one against each other because that's how they make money. The more they run candidates against each other, I mean, that's awesome for these businesses. So, and then let the people decide. But then just say, look, this is, you can't, just signing something like that be an affirmative defense that there doesn't need to be a lawsuit, that this doesn't need to go into the courts. Where it is destined to go in order to have a $0 fiscal note, which everything this year magically has a $0 fiscal note until we get to supplementals, and then I'm sure we'll start to find out how much these programs actually cost. So this is a contractual issue. The nanny state does not need to be involved in every grievance to settle every grievance that happens in this body. I recommend a no vote. Let's not have the Let's maybe put brakes on becoming the number 1 most regulated state. Maybe we could move down a few notches by taking some out. But this is the kind of stuff that moves us up the ranks.
Representative Brooks.
Madam Speaker, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Colleagues, just because we can doesn't mean that we should. I know we can. I don't believe that this is an area in which we should legislate. I don't see anything here that honestly can't be solved with signing a simple, non-compete. Pretty standard, at least in the business experience that I have had, that if you're worried about any sort of conflict, simply having the person that you're doing business with sign that illustrates a commitment to avoiding any sort of conflict, real or perceived. I don't think that this is the role of what we do here, and I would encourage a no vote.
Representative Titone.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to go back over this bill one more time and to point out a few things that are important to this bill. If you look at the Secretary of State's website, 0 people are in opposition. It's just one page. Usually there's like 20 pages of different positions on the website. There's one page, there's support, there's no opposition. There were no conversations that people really had with me about it. There was things said that a lot of the consultants were too afraid to come forward and say something. I mean, when does that ever happen? Nobody's shy about coming forward to telling us that they don't like a bill, but now all of a sudden there is. There were really not a lot of good reasons against it. I mean, I understand my colleagues here, over here on the right, where they say we don't want government involved. I get that. I get it. But this is just a simple fix. We have things happen to us. We've run bills. We've seen bills that when we have experiences ourselves or we have someone else that comes to us with an experience that we can find an injustice that happens, that we can do something to fix that problem. And that's what this bill does. Consulting companies are not regulated, not like lobbyists. There's no statute for consultants. This is a simple fix that just says, if you have a conflict, if you want to hire an opposing person that's going directly against someone who you're already working for, that you have to get written permission. That's what this bill does. Very simple fix. So a yes vote says that you agree that transparency and ethical behavior is important in this space. That when consultants are deliberately undermining one of their clients' interests, especially when they're running for office or if it's an issue committee that's on the ballot, when you have that happen, that is against the democratic process. That is someone putting the thumb on the scale and hurting that interest or that candidate before anything happens. Because time and money in campaigns are very important, and that takes away that effort. You can't get it back even if you take them to court later on. This bill makes it so there is a remedy, that there is a clear remedy in the court that that person can, or that candidate committee can take in the courtroom for compensation back to them. Because right now there is nothing that says that. There are some really great consultants out there. Most of them that I talked to are really great. And they said, when I told them the example of this happening and why this is coming about, they said, I would never do that. That's crazy. Why would they do that? That's so unethical. I'm appalled. That was the reaction I got from every consultant who I talked to. So why should they have someone get away with this kind of thing? We regulated the funeral industry because there were a couple bad actors out there that were doing horrendous things, and we did something about it. Most of the other folks were doing good business. But you know what? This is one of those votes where when I see the lights green or red over here, it's like fireworks, because the green is good. It shows that there's support for transparency and ethical behavior. And when there's red, it shows the people who are doing the work of the wealthy and the powerful, who really are at the heart of a lot of these consulting companies and who they work for. Especially the one particular one in question. They have the most wealthy and powerful people connected to them. And this kind of body that we have here should be working for the people, not to protect the wealthy and the powerful. But that's what we're seeing here, because some people don't want to be on the record voting one way or another, and the governor doesn't want to be on the record voting one way or another either. But here we are. So a no vote does not make me sad. A no vote gives me the record of who wants to protect the wealthy and the powerful. And that is what I'm recommending, that you vote yes on the bill to put transparency and ethics in place, because that's what this bill is all about.
Representative Titone, may I invite you back to the well for just a moment? I wanted to clarify, your concerns were with the consultants outside of this building, not those who will be pushing the buttons for red or green?
Right, exactly.
Thank you, Representative Titone. Representative Kilty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't going to come up and say anything, but then the more I heard, I figured I would just come up and just give you my point of view of this bill. We've all been junior candidates. We've all been brand new to the field. And we've seen throughout the years that you have campaigned or that you've been involved in politics. If there's going to be any shade, it's going to be in politics. And I think everyone here has seen it. We've seen good actors. We've seen bad actors. As far as these consultants are concerned, and when you become a candidate, immediately you start getting calls from the back rooms of wherever they come from. Oh, I want to be your campaign consultant. I want to help you this. I want to help you this. Here, buy into this, buy into that. When you're brand new, you don't know who is who or what is what and what questions to ask or where to go or even how to proceed. You're brand new. I see this bill as something that actually probably is needed. I don't like nanny state. I don't like Karen's stuff. But when it comes to finding a problem and having to put a solution out there, depending on people's ethics in politics, is not going to cut it sometimes. And I do believe that a bill something like this is necessary. It actually protects the person who is running. If I found out, actually, I probably would never find out that a campaign consultant also is being a consultant to my opponent. But they don't tell you that. They would never tell you that unless you ask, but you wouldn't know to ask that because you would never think that someone would do something like that, but they do. They are and they do that. There are some really great ones out there, and I've seen some really bad ones. I ran my own campaign. Want to know why? Because I didn't know who or what to trust. Trust is a big thing with me. If I can't trust it, I'm not doing it. I'm doing it myself. Fortunately, I had the know-how and the knowledge and experience over the years of being able to do that myself. But so many of them out there are not. And there's so many young, brand new candidates, some may not even be young, I'm not young, but that are out there and they don't know who or what to trust, so they trust blindly. And there are a lot of bad actors out there. Again, if there's going to be anything shady or shade going around, it's going to be in politics. We've seen that. So we need something that's going to protect those who are running for office because those are going to be the future leaders. And it would be nice to know that we can get the good guys in there and root out the bad. Thank you.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wasn't planning to come and speak on this bill today, but I am on the committee that heard this bill, and I think it's important to speak to some of the other motivations that may drive a no vote on the board today. This is a good idea in the sense of these kinds of terms should be found in contracts. I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say that giving notice to customers, to clients, that, hey, we might not just have your interest, but a competing interest in mind, that's a fair thing. But it doesn't require a law. And the notion that somehow it does require a law because we might not be aware of that or able to negotiate it is very concerning to me. Because this particular policy doesn't cover the average guy out there. It covers people who are seeking to have authority and power over the lives of other people. It covers people who are running for elected office. In most of those cases, charged with negotiations, with understanding the dynamics of a space, of a situation, of their rights under that space. And if we are not sophisticated enough as candidates to be able to negotiate for our own best interest, perhaps we should not be running for the offices sought.
Representative Kelty, this is your second time to speak to the bill. You have 7 minutes and 35 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I listened, and I actually disagree with my colleague. Like I said, there are people that come into this world. This is not a world that you can just pick up a leaflet and know everything about it. There is a problem out there. I've seen it myself, and that's why I actually agreed with the bill. There is a problem, and our job here is to come up with solutions. I agree there shouldn't have to be a law like this. Shouldn't have to be. But apparently there is. Sometimes we have to come up with a law to protect consumers. Sometimes we have to come up with a law for safety, protect against crime. Unfortunately, people in that realm, in the political realm, are not as ethical as we would like them to be. That's a sad day, but it's the truth and it's reality. Unfortunately, it has come to the point where we have to make a law that is going to protect those who are running for office from unscrupulous individuals. And when I say unscrupulous, I mean very unscrupulous. So it is a sad day that we have to have a law that protects us, but yet here we are. Thank you.
Representative Luck, this is your second time to speak. You have 8 minutes, 25 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do want to say that there are other mechanisms by which to protect. All of us are influential in our particular political parties, and all of us can raise for them that this is an issue so that in the candidate packets that get sent out to any particular interested candidate, it's included as a potential contract negotiating point. And to the bill sponsor's point about many consultants are appalled that this would even happen, you can approach those particular people and ask that this term be put in as boilerplate so that it just becomes common practice within the industry. There are many other ways to do this without having to pass another law to make those books back there even bigger.
Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is my second time at the well. I probably have less than 10 minutes to speak, and I won't use up. So I just thought
6 minutes and 49 seconds, and we're counting.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was kind of felt like unrestrained up here. So, all right. So I think it's interesting in this political space that we're talking about duplicity. And somebody who would a firm that would represent candidates that would not be fully acting with full integrity as to their intentions and motivations. And I think that maybe we should just have a law for politicians that do something like swear an oath to support and defend the Constitution and then do not.
Thank you, Representative DeGraff. Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 1137 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Weinberg, how do you vote?
No, ma'am.
Representative Weinberg votes no. Representative English, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative English votes yes. Sirota, Story, and Sukla. Representative Story, please close the machine. With 26 aye, 35 no, and 4 excused, the bill is lost. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 1.
Senate Bill 1 by Senators Roberts and Bridges, also Representatives Basenecker and Richardson, concerning housing and in connection therewith, authorizing a board of county commissioners to appropriate money to support specified types of housing and making the middle-income housing tax credit available to transferees who do not own an interest in a qualified development.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move Senate Bill 1 on third reading and final passage.
Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yeah, just some concerns around this bill. If we, one, the pretense that we still have this massive housing shortage, when instead what it seems to be is that we're building a massive housing bubble. And we've seen what happens when we build a massive housing bubble with government incentives to create a massive housing bubble. The funny thing about things that can't go on forever is they don't. And they work great until they fail catastrophically. And that's kind of the sense of a bubble. A bubble grows, it's nice, and then it pops and it's messy. And we have record high We have record high vacancies in El Paso County, in Denver, around the state, and yet we're pushing and pushing and pushing for more development. Not only more development, but ultimately more development that is controlled by bureaucrats from the capital, from Denver, who have absolutely no reach back, no accountability into the communities in which they are meddling. And so some things here, this power to sell public works. Any public building or real property, if the sale and disposition of the public building or real property is for the purpose of providing property be used for the development of affordable housing. And the funny thing is, just to confirm it, I looked it up, what's the definition of affordable housing? And it's really not defined. So we don't really have a defined definition of, well, that's redundant and repetitious at the same time, but we don't really have a good definition of affordable housing because it's ultimately less than 30% of the adjusted gross income. So anybody, affordable housing can be affordable for anybody as long as it's under 30% of their income. Now, that was kiboshed a couple years ago when it was all of a sudden approved that you could have that the landlord, the property owner, could only ask for rent, could only guarantee rent income at 50%, and that automatically gave rise to the ability to raise rents by 50%. If you look at the way the math works, and you look at the adjusted gross income or the average median income, going from 30% to 50% was an automatic jump in rent of 50%. I won't do the math for you because it doesn't have anything to do with pools and your carbon footprint. But trust me, you can work it out, or I'll show you how to do it. So any public building for affordable housing, and then you shift it to AMI. So that's basically what I'm talking about, the average monthly income of an area being 30% versus 50% for the basis of rent. So now what we're doing is we're just saying, hey, we're going to have a public works and we're going to sell any public building or real property. Well, just sell the property. If you have to maintain it, but this is, and then we get into the issue, I think the bigger issue for me is that it's with nonprofits and things like that, a governmental or quasi-governmental organization may transfer credits allocated it to it by the authority, a transferee, instead of paying for the property, instead of just paying straight up or paying for the housing to be made, then we're getting into this sub-economy of food stamps, housing stamps. And while common in the housing finance, this creates a secondary market where credits can function like financial assets rather than pure public housing tools. So what we're doing is we're feeding, my concern is that we're feeding this sub-industry where they have uncovered fraud, schemes involving housing subsidies and tax credit structures, including inflated development costs. And that's always the case. When the government inserts money into an economy, what you have is you have an artificial supply of money. And when you have an artificial supply of money, then the costs just go up. It's that simple supply-demand curve, Econ 101. And the kickbacks tied to credit financing. And what are we doing here? Credit financing. So kickbacks and credit financing seem to go hand in hand. It's not the intent of the bill. The intent of the bill is to be able to do this housing credit. But again, we have this notion that we're going to just continue to build housing, and we have vacancy rates. We have office vacancy rates at 40% in Denver. So I'm not sure who, and we have record high housing vacancy rates in Denver. So in order for those housing rates to be, the housing vacancy rate to go down, what we need is for the business vacancy rate to go down. And the last thing that this body is addressing is why the vacancy rate of our office space is so high. And that's because, again, we're the 6th most regulated state, aiming for number 1 as fast as we can. So tax credit, the Government Accountability Office and housing policy organizations have warned about monitoring and reporting the weaknesses within tax credit programs, including inconsistent oversight as to how credits are allocated and used. So we just have this obscure, this obtuse credit thing where You're just saying instead of buying it and paying and, cash on the barrelhead sort of thing, you're saying, well, we'll give you some credits over here. They don't really cost anything, so we'll just have that over there. Not the intent of the bill. The intent of the bill is to get housing, but again, we don't have a housing crisis. We're growing a housing bubble. Our birth rate is far below growth. It's only a fraction of maintenance. So right now, our birth rate is moving us in a direction that we're going to have even higher vacancies. So why do we want to clutter all of Colorado with housing that is not going to be, if it's not going to be needed, it's just going to decay into slums, which is the typical outcome when the government gets involved in these programs. Slums, higher rates, and lower availability. The economists and policy analysts have argued that housing tax credit programs can sometimes inflate development costs, standard, and allow financial actors to profit from credit structures rather than housing production. The amendment that I put on there ensured that the public entity was responsible for the housing project, reduced speculation in the credit markets, and strengthened the accounting. And then the sponsors said, well, we couldn't really do the bill because then the bill wouldn't be possible if it weren't for credit, because the people that were going to be doing these programs largely are not paying taxes anyways. So we're taking these entities, these non-audited government organizations, many of which are run from this room, but we're taking these non-audited government organizations and giving them tax credits to run a food stamp scheme into the sub-economy of Colorado, and it's a scheme that, not the intent of the bill, because I wouldn't want to get into any motivations there, tends to inflate development costs, result in kickbacks and fraud. So that's just the nature of the game. That's the nature of human. That's a commentary on human nature, not on the merits of this bill. I think the bill, unfortunately, we don't need that much more housing. We need to get the government out from pushing this growth of this bubble. Because the bubble, the more the government pushes it, the more it rewards people for growing that bubble unaccountably, the bigger mess that we're going to have. So I'm asking for a no vote on this. We don't have a housing crisis. The state is growing a bubble. We have a vacancy. We have a high vacancy rate. And when you talk to the demographers, then they just say, well, we're anticipating at some point the influx of a high rate of young fertile females. And I don't know where they're coming from, but that's the basis.
Representative.
Ma'am, that's the case. That's what they've been told. So I don't know how that is going to happen, because that's the only way that the birth rate would change and turn around. But right now we have a negative growth rate on our birth rate. We have a high vacancy rate. We have a even higher vacancy rate in our business
Representative
offices.
DeGraff, you have 55 seconds remaining.
I'll hold those for later.
Representative Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate my colleagues' statewide view of the issues, but this bill is actually very hyper-focused on very local needs. As I said at the outset, this bill appealed to me because, one, it's one of the first bills that's come forward in this area that is truly not prescriptive, that doesn't state from this podium or this building how a local government must address its needs. It's not a one-size-fits-all from the state level. Denver may be awash in available housing, and that may be because businesses have left and folks don't need to live here. But at the end of the day, jobs are people, and houses where people go to sleep, where those jobs go to sleep at night. There are areas in this state where there are significant shortfalls in housing that can be afforded by people in the workforce. And there are definitions for workforce housing. But again, this bill provides a tool. It doesn't provide a mandate. It does not require new taxes or fees of any sort to be levied. The middle income tax credit program exists. It is funded. This bill allows local decision-making and local priorities to direct those monies in a way that they can be used to allow projects to actually pencil out and be built. I don't disagree. There are places where this isn't needed. But there are places in this state that truly suffer from a dearth of housing that people who work for a living can afford, and this allows that to be addressed. As for potentials for misuse, everything has a potential for misuse. Seeing that misuse and addressing it is absolutely much more likely when it's a specific project supported by a very local government that's answerable directly to its people. If you walk through some of our smaller counties, our smaller districts, stop for gas, stop in the grocery store, the people in our counties know exactly what's going on everywhere, and they will tell you who is doing right and who is doing wrong. At some point, we have to trust as a state body that our local governments can also be trusted to do the right thing for the people that they serve. You know, are there things that go awry? Absolutely. But we've got to trust the people that we partner with. As a state, the counties can only do what we allow them to do. This allows them to do something to help the people of their areas. And quite honestly, I think they can do a better job at figuring out what they need and how to best address it at their local level. So I continue to urge support of this bill and have maintained from the beginning and still do that the real problem we need to address is why it is so darned expensive to actually construct a home. And I've talked to my co-prime at the very beginning of this that I'd really like to get after how we reduce the cost of constructing a home, not just subsidizing that cost. But right now, we have programs in place and money has been put into them. And rather than have, I'll use the term random pull downs of that cash for somebody that has a great idea, I think it is much better that a local government that knows its people and perhaps the housing authorities that were formed by those local governments that know those needs are the ones that access that money and direct it to a very specific project. So I know this bill is not going to satisfy everyone. There's a whole lot more to be done in this sector. And there's a lot of other ways to handle the cost of living, the cost of everything, and we need to get after those as well. But we can't throw out a good idea because it is not perfect. And that's where I'm going to stop. So I would urge a yes vote.
Representative Sukla.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I actually have a question for the bill sponsors, and that is, in Montezuma County, I was on the Housing Authority. We owned $32 million worth of property and projects. We built multiple projects. We also, because it was a housing authority, we didn't pay any taxes on those properties. And so my question is, with this bill and the affordable houses that are built, will they be paying property taxes every year?
Representative Richardson, this is your second time to speak to the bill. You have 4 minutes and 50 seconds remaining.
Thank you. Now, the housing authorities as quasi-governmental organizations or the counties can pay taxes, and that's kind of the point of this bill. They can access these credits, but they don't pay taxes, so they can't use them to cover a tax bill, but they can transfer them to somebody that can purchase them that does have a tax burden, and that brings cash into either the housing authority or the county that can be placed towards that project to get it completed. Okay. Yeah.
Members,
No, if there is ownership and taxes due at a later date, perhaps, yes.
Representative Richardson, what was there an
Oh,
additional
sorry.
question
Is-
in there,
is
just so that our
sometime-
public
yeah.
is aware?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We did digress a little bit. The question was, down the road, projects completion, property taxes, will they be paid? Again, there's probably places where, as a completely nonprofit entity, there might be cases where they don't. There may be cases where they do. That's
Representative Sukla, you have one more time to speak to this bill, and you have 9 minutes and 29 seconds remaining.
Okay, well, I talk fast, so I shouldn't take that long. So this is my problem with the bill, is I described the town of Cortez, Colorado. That county has 26,000 people. Let's say they have 5,000 houses, and they are all workforce housing because everybody that lives in one of those houses has a job and works, and every year they have to pay property taxes. So with this bill, these selected individuals will not have to pay property taxes every year, and in return, what that will do to me is, since I'm paying the 8,000 homes or 5,000 homes, their taxes are going to increase with an offset from the taxes from these selected few people that don't have to pay the property taxes. And that's where this bill rubs me wrong. I live in a workforce community because I have the town of Telluride where I live. And what they do is, it's a bunch of billionaires, and they can't afford, the workers can't afford to live in Telluride. So they come down to Cortez, and we want the people that are the workers. We don't want the billionaires. We want the workers, because if you have a flat tire, the worker's going to stop and help your wife fix the flat tire. The billionaire's going to keep driving. So we want the workers. But the problem with this is, in my opinion, is what happened to fair government, where if you're going to get a leg up and get a house built for you from the housing authority, then in the future you should carry your weight and pay your property taxes like your neighbor next door. And for that reason, I'm going to have a respectful no.
Representative DeGraff, you have 52 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll try to talk a little bit like a auctioneer, but right now we have a statewide solution for the resort areas, and that's what we're looking at. So we have a those local taxes can raise a mill levy. They can do something. They can bring that money in. We don't have to encourage a statewide solution that encourages all municipal governments, all local governments to deal with a local problem, to deal with to use a credit scheme, a food stamp scheme that ultimately ends up with higher prices, lower development, and the money on the backs of the citizens of Colorado. Because those tax credits are paid by the citizens of Colorado, the tax rates are going to go up, possibly, as this is used throughout the state of Colorado. That goes up if these entities don't end up paying taxes, because the project remains non-audited government organization. Or
Representative
highly
DeGraff,
profitable.
your time has expired.
Oh, no.
Speaker Pro Tem Basenecker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I will keep it brief. One of the maddening things about working in the housing space is oftentimes you will hear local governments espouse the value of local control when it comes to solving these issues. I don't disagree. I think our local governments have a direct nexus with the issue of affordable housing. But the frustrating part of that conversation comes down on bills like this, where we say, here are tools that our local governments can use to build more affordable housing. This is local control through, and we hear not like that. And then we say, these tools will help you build more workforce housing, which, by the way, is defined in statute. You can find that very easily. And we hear, oh, not like that. And then we hear that we should be better stewards of the resources that voters have rightly allocated to their county and municipal governments by giving county commissioners the authority to do what they will with the tax dollars that already come in. This is not a new tax, and we hear not like that. And we hear that we don't have an affordable housing crisis in the state of Colorado, and yet we pull the data. We see that El Paso County is leading the charge on folks that cannot afford a home in their community, and we say, here's a tool that El Paso County could use or not to start to speak to that issue, and we hear not like that. Well, colleagues, I have to be clear. Either you have a fidelity to local control or you don't, and that is your choice. But when we bring a bill forward that will give counties more authority, more flexibility, more tools in the toolbox to solve affordable housing issues in our communities that they can choose to use or not, then I don't know what we mean when we say local control is a value, if that is also a problem. There aren't too many counties in the state of Colorado that don't have an issue with who can actually afford to buy those homes that are being built in your districts. You probably do have some vacancy rate issues because if you earn under $500,000 in some counties, you cannot afford to buy a home. So yeah, those homes are going to sit empty because you can build them all day long and nobody in your community can actually afford to buy them. You have weird vacancy rates when you build a lot of housing that is not in line with what folks can actually afford, meaning folks are stuck in housing they can barely afford, or they're stuck in housing that they could probably pay more for, but there's nothing in the market that would allow them to do that. So what does this bill do? It fills in that middle. It allows you to utilize a long-standing program here in the state of Colorado to build more housing using tax credits that already exist by bringing more capital to those situations. A county government can choose to opt into that program or not. That is their choice. But we know from specific counties across the state of Colorado that this has been something they have wanted. My community in Larimer County has asked for this. Our rural resort communities have asked for this. This is something that will be helpful or not to your communities. Again, as my good colleague mentioned, there is no new tax in this bill. We don't have that authority under the state constitution. I think we're all aware of that. It just simply says that if your county would like to utilize some of the revenue that they have for the express purpose of building affordable housing, that they could do that. Or not. That is local control, friends. And so we would respectfully ask for a yes vote on this bill.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 1 on third reading, final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Weinberg, how do you vote?
No, ma'am.
Representative Weinberg votes no. Representative English, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative English votes yes. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Please close the machine. With 53 aye, 10 no to excuse, Senate Bill 1 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. One announcement, members, Representatives Brown, Sirota, and Taggart are excused at such time as necessary for the Joint Budget Committee. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the following bills be made special orders on March 10th, 2026 at 10:17 a.m. House Bill 1089, Senate Bill 34, Senate Bill 13, House Bill 1095, Senate Bill 64, House Bill 1258, House Bill 1090, and House Bill 1191.
Seeing no objection, the bills listed by the Majority Leader will be made special orders today, March 10th at 10:17 a.m. Representative Camacho. Members, you've heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Camacho will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there's a request for reading of a bill at length. Committee reports are printed in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen on iLegislate and in today's folder on your box account. Bills will be laid over upon the motion of the majority leader. The coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of the House Bill 1089.
House Bill 1089 by Representative Espinoza, also Senator Snyder, concerning mortgage modifications and in connection therewith, enacting the Uniform Mortgage Modification Act.
Representative Espinoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a pleasure to serve with you.
It is a pleasure to serve with you.
Colleagues, this is a Uniform Law Commission bill and a modification of, Mr. Chair, I move HB 26-1089 in the committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the committee, we amended a reference in the statute to ensure that we were including Part 2 of Article 39 to reference all statutes of limitations. I'd urge an aye for the committee report.
Is there any further questions on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The committee report passes. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a Uniform Law Commission bill, and what we're doing here is updating provisions in the Mortgage Modification Act, and specifically, HB 1029 clarifies that a senior mortgage retains its original lien priority when modified through certain qualifying borrower-focused changes. The bill preserves the existing priority framework while ensuring that common loss mitigation efforts do not unintentionally alter lien status. Specifically, it provides that a senior lien holder does not lose priority solely because it enters into a qualifying loan modification. It clarifies that a modification does not constitute a novation of the original mortgage. It confirms that lien priority is preserved.
Representative Espinoza. Colleagues, if you could please reduce your volume and move all conversations aside so we can hear our colleague Rep. Espinoza present the bill. To the bill.
It confirms that the lien priority is preserved regardless of whether the modification is recorded. And finally, it recognizes electronic signatures, bringing us into the 21st century, and records for mortgage modification to modernize the process and promote uniform treatment. I'd encourage an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1089. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1089 passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of Senate Bill 34.
Senate Bill 34 by Senators Colker and Marchman, also Representatives Hamrick and Bacon, concerning expanding participation by members of the Auraria Board of Directors Advisory Committees.
Representative Hamrick.
I move Senate Bill 26034.
That is a proper motion to the bill. Representative Hamrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are honored to present Senate Bill 2634, also known as the Auraria Student and Faculty Board Voting Rights Act of 2026. This bill modernizes the governance of Colorado's largest college campus to better reflect the people who live, work, and study there every day. The Auraria Higher Education Center is a unique shared resource campus serving over 49,000 students, faculty, and staff across the Community College of Denver, MSU Denver, and CU Denver. While these groups are the heart of the campus, their representatives on the Auraria Board currently sit in a non-voting, advisory-only capacity. Senate Bill 2634 changes that by granting these elected representatives full voting rights. When we talk about the value of this bill, we're talking about the grounding of the board's decision-making in actual lived experience. Currently, the Auraria Board makes major decisions regarding classrooms, safety, multi-million-dollar construction projects, and student fees for shared spaces like the Tivoli Center Union. Without a vote, these major projects could move forward without meaningful input from the very people most affected by them. This advisory-only status creates a disconnect that often leads to underused resources or policies that feel out of touch with the reality of campus life. By empowering the student voice, we're also making our governance more inclusive of the modern student body. This bill repeals the outdated requirement that the student representatives be full-time student, which effectively re-enfranchises the nearly 50% of Auraria students who balance their education and careers with part-time schedules. We're further opening the door to our talented international and out-of-state students by reducing the residency requirement from 3 years down to 1. Similarly, we are strengthening faculty representation by expanding their advisory committee from 6 to 9 members. This ensures that as the campus grows, the board has access to a broader, more diverse range of academic and professional perspectives from all 3 constituent institutions. Ultimately, granting these votes ensures that those who are materially affected by the board's decisions are active, substantive participants in the process. We're not reinventing the wheel here. This bill follows the precedent of at least 15 other public university systems across the country, including states like Arizona, go Cats, Tennessee, and Washington, that already provide students or faculty with voting rights on their boards. To ensure the highest level of integrity, this bill explicitly clarifies that these new voting members are fiduciaries of the center, It builds on existing law that requires them to recuse themselves from any vote or executive session where a conflict of interest exists, and empowers the board to create a transparent framework for these standards. We respectfully ask for a yes vote on Senate Bill 2634 to ensure our campus community has a true voice in shaping its future.
AML Bacon.
Thank you, members, and thank you to my co-prime for sponsoring this bill. Ultimately, members, we just want to say that we have often supported the notion in this building that those who are impacted by decisions, particularly who are of sound mind as adults, should be able to contribute to those said decisions. And often, colloquially, we say, not about us, without us, and that's ultimately what this bill is about. This bill is about expanding a board that unfortunately is created in and managed through statute, given its special nature. This is about allowing students of a very special campus who, quite frankly, have more of a profile of being students from the area, students who are career changers, students who might also be more progressive in their careers, and they are fully capable of contributing to the decisions that impact their very lives. And at the end of the day, what we are proposing here is that the students have a voting voice on issues that impact them, along with the faculty, which, is kind of striking, actually, that those who are the primary distributors of the information, aka the product of a higher education campus or higher education in general, do not have voices in the space. And so, members, this is simple. Throughout the reading of the bill, because I'm sure we're going to have discussion, there are requirements as well. If you want to be a student representative, yes, it says that you do not have to be full-time, given 2 of the 3 campuses are, directly target career changers. And we also say, though, that we cut the residency provision from 3 years to 1 year, which means someone still has to be a resident to apply for the student seat. But we did that to give students the opportunity to even become a resident, let alone to be able to serve. For example, I went to school in Louisiana, but I was a resident of Florida as an undergrad. And so if I wanted to be a member of a student, if I wanted to be a student member of a board, that means I would have to change my residency to Louisiana. Well, that is not actually required much in these circumstances, but in this bill, we said you do have to be a resident of Colorado at least for a year, even if you are an international student, even if you are a student coming from another state. And this campus does host such students. And so, members, when you think about 3 years out of 4, especially in undergrad, we want to give folks an opportunity to decide if they want to commit this way, and that's why we changed that rule just there for an example. But everything else is commiserate to where we see students who actually have voting opportunities. And finally, members, the minute someone becomes, has the voting responsibility and opportunity, per rule and statute, they are fiduciaries, which means they cannot operate under conflicts of interest. And so I'm putting it out here because I'm sure we're going to talk later. And so when you hear me just ask for a no vote, you know why. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, the question, Representative Barone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just come up here to bring up some concerns on this bill, and then and hopefully the bill sponsors can, probably clarify this for me. The board itself, these colleges, they have members that are coming in from out of state. The student, all I want to make sure is that we have board members that have skin in the game, per se, that look at the best interest of these higher education services to move forward and to do the best for their students. And having people in the state that live here, that have skin in the game, that may not necessarily grew up here, but at the same time want to put their roots down. So I just want to make sure that this actually does accomplish that. And I just want to see if that's something that the bill sponsors can clarify for me.
AML Bacon.
Thank you to my colleague. I would first offer that students have skin in the game and that this not only is a very big expense on their behalf to being a student, but also they are at an institution that will issue them a degree, which the whole purpose of them being there is so they can use it. So we see naturally by their presence. But furthermore, in the bill, there is a residency requirement of 1 year. They have to be a resident of the state for a year to be able to run for the position.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 34? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 34. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 34 passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 13.
Senate Bill 13 by Senators Hinrichsen and Marchman, also Representatives Okai, concerning cohabitation as a means to commit the offense of bigamy.
Representatives Okai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 13.
Proper motion to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this bill is providing a much-needed cleanup to our criminal code and clarifying that the definition of bigamy should align with its plain meaning, which is the act of entering into more than one legal marriage or civil union at the same time. Bigamy is a Class 2 misdemeanor, and yet part of the definition of bigamy includes cohabitation, and that can be difficult to define and hard to interpret in practice. And so what this bill does is it removes cohabitation as a basis for criminal liability for the charge of bigamy. And that is because including cohabitation in the definition can have unintended consequences. For example, I ask that we consider somebody fleeing domestic violence. They may not have the means to go through a divorce proceeding, or they may avoid going through a divorce proceeding because they are afraid to see their abuser in court. If that person then lives with somebody else, they would fall within the current definition of bigamy and could face criminal liability. The current definition of bigamy also keeps people from seeking medical attention and essential services because they are worried about facing that criminal liability. Even if conviction and prosecution does not ultimately occur, the mere threat of being charged under this ambiguous criminal statute has a chilling effect and creates fear and uncertainty for people who are trying to rebuild their lives. Ultimately, it is my belief that families come in all shapes and sizes, and that it is not our place to judge what is a legal family. And I recognize that we might have different moral views when it comes to living arrangements and how people structure their households. But it is not our place in this body to criminalize those differences. The role of government is not to police private relationships between consenting adults, but rather to ensure that our criminal code is focused on addressing real harm. This bill had bipartisan support in the Senate and in the Judiciary Committee in the House, and I hope all of you will join me in supporting it today.
Representative Espinoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise today in support of this bill, but I want to put on the record I voted against this bill in committee because I do think there's a state interest that's still at play in this area. And I want to be clear that upon reflection, I believe that state interest is still met. The question in bigamy is whether the state has an obligation to protect two subsequent marriages in terms of protecting the first party that entered into the marriage from any adverse actions that might happen with the second party. I believe that the word cohabitation, as it was originally in the statute, was referring to common law marriage. And therefore, at the committee, I was not in favor of this bill. However, I've looked at whether we would need to put common law marriage back into the statute to cover that concern, and I do not believe we need to because the bigamy statute, as it will remain after this bill is adopted, indicates that there's still a marriage that happens and a subsequent marriage. A subsequent marriage would be covered, and since our statute includes under marriage common law and regular marriage, I do not believe we need to add common law back into the statute, and therefore I encourage an aye vote on this bill. Thank you.
Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is it's a brave new world. Let's see.
Representative DeGraff, Colleagues, if we can, the volume is rising again. If you could just keep your volume down or move your conversations to the side or outside the chamber, it'd be much appreciated. Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right. In this brave new world, I move L001 to SB013 and ask that it be displayed. I heard it. It's on the mic.
That is a proper motion, and Amendment 1 has been properly displayed to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment is just to clarify current law for this section. So not to add regulation, but just to clarify the regulation, and just saying nothing in this section shall be construed to allow an individual who is legally married to maintain multiple households representing spousal or marriage-like relationships for the purpose of obtaining public assistance. So again, the sponsor will tell you that this is pretty much already in law. This is just clarifying the law. This is just clarifying the law for this section here that we're in this brave new world. So for the purpose of obtaining public assistance, tax benefits, or government programs. If an individual who is legally married represents more than one person as a spouse or spousal equivalent for the purpose of government benefit or legal status, such representation constitutes evidence of bigamy. So again, just to clarify current law as we're getting into this new realm, and I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Zokai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, much taller than me. Thank you to the representative from El Paso County. I am going to ask for a no vote on this amendment, as doing so already constitutes fraud. I don't believe we also need to add it into the bigamy statute, and it is redundant in adding additional charges that are not necessary. So I urge a no vote.
Any further discussion on Amendment L1? All those in favor? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment L1. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The noes have it. Amendment L1 fails. To the bill, Representative DeGraff.
Well, I thought it would be very big of you to clarify bigamy, but we'll just go on from there. So I move L002 to SB013 and ask that it be displayed.
That is a proper motion. Amendment L2 has been displayed to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then with the discussions with the drafters, what this should do is just clarify current law to clarify it. So notwithstanding any other provision of law, a child may be claimed as a dependent for purposes of any state tax credit, deduction, or benefit by only one taxpayer or household in a given year. So again, this is just to make sure, that should be a given, but this is just to make sure that as we're getting in this area, that this is not, there's no question marks around this. If multiple adults reside in a household or maintain marriage-like relationships with the same child residing in the household, the Department of Revenue shall require designation of single taxpayer authorization to claim the child for state tax purposes. So the Department of Revenue may adopt rules necessary to ensure that a child is not claimed by multiple taxpayers for tax benefits in the same tax year. So what we don't want is children to be used as tax pawns. So this should be illegal. Again, this is just clarifying. This is clarifying the statute. This is clarifying the rules and the regulations as it relates to this section. So it's not really adding, it's just clarifying. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Zokai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the representative from El Paso County. I am going to once again ask for a no vote on this amendment, as this is, again, current law. Two adults that are married can claim a child together. If they are separated, only one adult may claim that child. To do otherwise would be I wouldn't say it's tax fraud, but it would be flagged and only one adult would be able to claim the child. The Department of Revenue already has rules to determine that, and just fun fact, it is whoever files that child first, and that's why these things are usually settled in divorce proceedings. I think adding this into the bigamy statute would create unnecessary confusion, and I ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L2? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment L2. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The noes have it again. Amendment L2 fails. To the bill. AML Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't able to sit in committee, so I just have a question. Are there any examples of this happening, or is there any background to why you're doing it?
Representative Zokai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the question. Yes, as I outlined when I went over the opening of this bill, there's not that many convictions of bigamy, but people are charged with it and then ultimately not convicted. But just the mere threat of being charged with bigamy keeps people from seeking medical attention or essential services. And so it has a chilling effect on individuals who might have different living arrangements. And so we think it's important to make this clarification.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 13? Representative Bottoms.
Thank you, Chair. This is just another long line of bills that we do in this building. And I guess I should stop being surprised, but here's another one. I like the idea that somehow these relationships, these living arrangements, or however somebody wants to say it, should be chilled. These are very unhealthy relationships. But I do actually pick on the church here a little bit for the beginning of this context. The idea of marriage is something that God instituted. It's actually the first institution that God created. And there were very defined parameters of that. One man, one woman. And obviously, I guess I have to say this, one biological man, one biological woman. And then that's it. And sometimes people use the Old Testament to say, well, God was okay with all these other marriages, having multiple marriages. He never was. Those were illustrations of people getting outside of God's plan, and God explains that through Scripture. The problem is, in America in the 1600s, we actually turned marriage, the church turned marriage over to the state so that they could get some financial benefit from the king across the sea. And so when the church handed it over to the state, then the state now begins to define what marriage is. These are the results. And this is something that the church just will not open their eyes and see. When you turn this stuff over to the state, these are the results. The state is not a God-fearing organization. It's a bureaucracy, and oftentimes even described in Scripture as being evil. And so the state has arrived at the conclusions they're going to arrive at, that anybody can marry anybody. We've even got some bills coming that I think would allude to the fact that you can marry animals. So this is where we've come to. And then the church gets upset, or moral founded people get upset, but you handed it to the state a long time ago. What we've got to do is take these things back from the state and reestablish them or reclaim them for the biblical Judeo-Christian values that were exhibited at the very beginning. These kind of bills just blow my mind that we're having these arguments and discussions, and how many people can live together. Is it bigamy? Are they married? Are they not married? This stuff is just, we should not be having these conversations, but when we let the state become so corrupt and so immoral, this is what happens. Immorality will continue to be pushed by this room until we stop it. And I don't see it stopping for at least another 6 months.
Representative Brooks.
Chair, thank you. This did not come through a committee on which I sit, so I am getting caught up on some of it as we go here. And but as soon as I start looking at this from the beginning this morning, I think that anybody on this side would realize that anybody on this side is going to have questions, if not outright concerns. My read of it is just a further kind of erosion of what my particular outlook and those I believe that many of my colleagues hold as dear and traditionally nuclear. I understand that one of the arguments that was made in committee is that things have changed. I heard that in committee last night when it came to tax code. Antiquated. It's not the word. I can't remember what the word was that was offered up, but basically old-fashioned is kind of what I heard. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I embrace some of the qualities of being old-fashioned. I embrace some of the qualities of being traditional and nuclear. So I have some concern and pause with moving into this direction because it seems like there is a motion, a movement, a desire to erode at families, to erode at family structures, to erode at the definitions which have been traditional. And I want to push back against that because I think that there's so much that we're losing in this state already, that there are some things that we should probably try to defend a little bit more, and having some of that traditional element is something that I will continue to fight for. So I would urge a no on this. And I would imagine that there might be some other amendments that have been printed and warm that are ready to go.
Representative Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did not hear this in committee. I am blown away. I'm just listening for the first time, but I say that we tell California to hold our beer every time in this legislative session. If the bill sponsor... What happens if someone is having an affair and won't get divorced or sign papers? Like, I have a good friend whose husband is having an affair right now, who is cohabitating with another woman, and what happens to her under this bill?
Rep. Zokai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I don't know if that would have ever been under this bill, but what we are doing is removing cohabitation from the definition of bigamy. So there wouldn't be, I guess, a criminal violation. Certainly a moral or ethical one. Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Representative DeGraff.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's I mean, it seems like there's the side that the state should get out of this entirely, but we've enmeshed ourselves in this. Now, I think that, and the state enmeshed itself in it because, a healthy marital mother-father relationship is a significant indicator, if not a prime indicator, in individual thriving, in the overall long-term success of a child. And since children are our future, then this is not a matter. It's not a matter of value of individuals. It's just a matter of fact. And the state has decided that it has an interest in promoting that relationship, mother, father. It provides tax benefits for that purpose to encourage that relationship so that children grow up in a two-parent home. Now, is that the role of the state? Well, probably not. But again, the state has intervened and said, we see a need for us to intervene because, again, the state was not doing this for any moral purposes. The state is really doing this, the king was doing this for the purpose of stability and long-term thriving. So the state stepped in to encourage this stability, this family stability, because it does encourage long-term thriving. Now, if you look at authors and thinkers like Unwin and talking about the marital relationship and where this has gone, the strength of society long-term does actually depend on this. And whether you appreciate the morals and the values and the norms of a healthy marital relationship, it doesn't really matter. Those are the indicators of a thriving society. And when those break down, a society is in decay. A society is in collapse. So when we're dealing with this kind of legislation, we're just really trying to manage collapse, because we're no longer talking about thriving. We're no longer talking about growth. We're no longer talking, and you see that in the growth rates of our population. People are walking away from marriage. They're walking away from family, in large part because of the decisions made by the government, where people don't see a future. So I move, in order to help manage this collapse, as indicated by this moral decay that we're managing here, I move L004 to SB013 and ask that it be displayed. I thought I did.
That is proper motion. Amendment 4 has been displayed to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just some preamble there, and then on page 2 after line 13, if a child residing in a household received state-funded public assistance or benefits, the Department of Human Services or a county shall require cooperation with the establishment of paternity and child support pursuant to Article 13, Title 26, and Article 4 of Title 19. So this is paternity should be pretty easy to establish, but in those cases where it's not, then this is just making sure that the state is not just simply on the hook for people not shouldering their responsibilities. And if a father, shouldn't be considered, if the male of the relationship does not act appropriately as a father, this should at least take them off. This should put them back into the level of responsibility that they need to actually provide. If not emotional support, they should be supplying financial support for the child. So going on, for purposes of this section, the existence of a child born to a legally adopted by two individuals shall constitute evidence of a marriage-like relationship. So even if they don't declare it as a marriage, for the purpose of the state, we're going to call it a marriage-like relationship between those two individuals. Children should not be just back and forth. If you're going to have a child in the mix here, that is a serious relationship. You're dealing with the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of a current person, of a very vulnerable person. And so nothing in this section shall be interpreted to create legal parental status for more than two individuals based solely on cohabitation or marriage-like relationships. So this is not making a village as supposedly the caretakers of that child. This assigns the care of that child to two specific individuals, not just somebody to be passed around some little commune and all that where they can, where their interests are not truly represented. So again, for the purpose of this section, the existence of a child born or legally adopted by two individuals shall constitute evidence of a marriage-like relationship. And that ties in with the nature of this bill. So I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Soper.
Merci, Mr. Chair. Members, I've appreciated this conversation. It does kind of remind me of a famous story. Back in my youth, the president of France was Francois Mitterrand, and when he died, not only did Mrs. Mitterrand attend his funeral, but he had secretly been cohabitating with his lover in the south of France, whom they had a child with and whom he financially supported. And that's exactly what this bill gets at, which is the element of cohabitation is not bigamy. It's when you have a person who's holding themselves as actively being married to two different people at the exact same time. So because of that, I move Amendment L006 as a substitute amendment and ask that it be properly displayed.
Substitute Amendment L006 has been properly displayed, and you have a proper motion to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this changes the short title to the Mitterrand Act. It illustrates exactly what the bill is trying to do, which is we want to punish under the crimes of bigamy those individuals who are actively holding themselves out as being married to more than one person at one time. We don't necessarily want to be in the position of having to police when someone is married and living with another person. That is a very sticky situation that really we do not want the state involved in. Hopefully they would get a divorce if that was the case. That's the remedy that we have here. With that, I would ask for a yes vote to call this the Mitterrand Act.
Representative Zokai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sure, why not?
Cool.
Seems fun. I urge a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L006? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment L006, or L006. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Amendment L006 passes. Representative Barone.
To the bill, right?
To the bill.
To the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I wasn't going to come up here and say anything. I already had my vote in mind, but I felt the duty, to come up here and speak a little bit on this for myself, for my family, and for my district. Of course, it's no surprise I'm going to be against this bill. I'm going to vote no, and I urge a no vote for my district and yours as well. The importance of why I'm coming up here is because I find this bill is actually moving away from solving the mental health problem that we have in our country and in our state. For that reason, I want to say that the importance of having what they call an atomic family, a strong family in the household, not just for the biological man and woman that are married, but for the children. The importance of having that strong family goes leaps and bounds for mental health. When one of those aspects gets taken out of the family, it affects not just one, maybe two, not just two, but maybe three as well. All three of them, or even depending on how many kids, 4, 5, 6. It affects our mental health. It goes into decline. Some immediate, some over time, but it does make an effect. A PubMed Central report gathered from 24 studies found that women in polygamous marriages have a 2.25 times higher chance of experiencing depression, and children with polygamous parents have a drastically higher global severity index. That's a concern for me because I'm a big advocate of mental health, that we do have a mental health issue, and propositions like these in this bill, it makes it worse. it just encourages more mental health problems in children, married couples, and I really don't feel like that's something that we should be encouraging. So, that being said, I just want to urge my colleagues here, vote no on this bill, help mental health, and for the people in my district, I just want to say I encourage the strong family bonds that we create to help us move forward in life and give us that mental health strength. So I urge a no vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 13? Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, what my colleague said brings up a lot of really good points. And while a lot of times when we think that we're being liberated, we're really being enslaved. And we're being enslaved to passions, and we're being enslaved to societally. And we're neglecting the people that the support of marriage is intended to protect. And if you're going to enter into a relationship and have children, then children become the focus of the relationship. They become the purpose of the relationship. So it's kind of a, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. So with that, I move L008 to SB013 and ask that it be displayed. I gave it.
That is a proper motion. L8 has been displayed to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is somebody going to tell you that's a settled question and this is a different amendment? And you can notice by that there's 3, 4, 5, and 6, as opposed to 3, 4, and 5. Because these build on each other. So before page 2, before line 13, if a child residing in a household receives state-funded public assistance or benefits, the Department of Human Services or a county department shall require cooperation with the establishment of paternity and the child support pursuant to Article 13, Section Title 26, Article 4 of Title 19. For the purpose of this section that we're talking about in this whole bigamy section, the existence of a child born to or legally adopted by two individuals shall constitute a marriage-like relationship. This just puts the child at the forefront of this consideration. If two adults are going to act consensually and adopt or conceive a child, then this just establishes a marriage-like relationship that, for the purpose of the law, establishes the protective shield of that marriage-like relationship over that child. Continuing, a person applying for or receiving public assistance on behalf of a child shall cooperate with paternity establishment. So if that is unknown, if it is disputed, that the state has the ability to step in. And the reason for that is because if somebody is going to establish paternity, then they don't just have the right to establish paternity biologically, they have the responsibility of that paternity. They need to, and I think it's an appropriate role of the state in this regard, because this is a matter of securing life, liberty, or property for that person, that child. Because now that the existence of a child, adopted or biologically conceived, is evidence of a marriage-like relationship. A person applying for or receiving public assistance on behalf of a child shall cooperate with the paternity to establish and child support enforcement unless good cause existed as determined by the department. And so what this section is for is to take the female off the hook for establishing that and then taking that individual to court. So this is number 5. Number 4 is protective of the child. Number 5 is protective of the mother. Because the mother in this case should not have to go to court, should not have to prove that. What we have given here is the authorization of the state to actually have to prove paternity. Not allege paternity, but prove paternity. Unless good cause exists as determined by the department. So perhaps the mother would say that's not appropriate, whatever. That would have to be determined by and that would be, I suppose, if the mother wanted to provide support, but that here would be outside the level of public assistance. Because now what we also have is the public on the hook for two people entering into a marriage-like relationship, having a child, and then foisting the responsibility of that child onto society at large, and that is not good for the child. So nothing in this section shall be interpreted to create legal parent status for more than 2 individuals based on solely cohabitating or marriage-like relationships. So this doesn't increase, so the child is still just the child of 2 parents. They have the responsibility. He's not lost in the milieu of whatever arrangement is conceived in this brave new world that we have. But the child is protected by this amendment, the mother is protected in this amendment, and then society at large is protected by this amendment by ensuring that the father, without forcing confrontation with the mother, is exercising responsibility for the child through parental support. So I think for the purpose of the child, the mother, and society at large, this is a good amendment. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Zokai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the representative from El Paso County for this creative amendment. I will be asking for a no vote for a few reasons. One is that we already have procedures for determining paternity within divorce proceedings and when someone is seeking child support. I don't think it is the role of the state to start mandating paternity tests when there's already mechanisms to do so. And I certainly don't think it fits within the bigamy misdemeanor law. Furthermore, I find it odd to create a whole new definition of marriage within this amendment, of marriage-like, and I think it's odd to create a new definition of marriage, marriage-like. We did just vote, I think last week, on codifying the definition of marriage. I believe the good rep from El Paso County voted yes on that bill. And on sections 4 and 6, I think we are ignoring the many ways that people have children, whether it is through surrogates, adoption, or otherwise. And so I think this creates a whole mess and truthfully does not fit within the bigamy law. And so with that, I am going to request a title ruling.
The committee will stand in a brief recess to discuss whether the amendment fits under the title. Will the bill sponsors please join me at the side? The committee will come back to order. The chair rules that the amendment does not fit under the title to the bill. Oh, wait, 1 second. Does not fit under the title to the bill. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 13? Seeing none. Question before us is the passage of Representative Clifford. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 13? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 13. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 13 passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of House Bill 1095.
House Bill 1095 by Representative Sukla concerning the authority of certain local governments to publish legal notices in an online publication.
Yeah, and then I'll make an introduction. So,
Representative Sukla.
yeah, so move the bill first, and then I'll do the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move House Bill 26-1095
Anything else you'd like to move, Representative Sukla?
and the committee report.
That is proper motion. Representative Nguyen.
I would like to also, I move to reject the committee report for 1-1095.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Representative Nguyen.
Unfortunately, the committee report adopted two amendments that conflict with one another. This is why we need to start rejecting the committee report. Amendment 1-110 is now a policy that we want to adopt and does not fit within the title as amended by L1-2. And we actually will be adding an amendment to re-add that. So this is why we're rejecting the committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the motion to reject the THL?
We'd ask for a no vote.
Yes.
Hold on. Representative Sukla, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'd ask for a no vote on the committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the motion to reject the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us, hold on. Got it. Sorry. I will rephrase. So the motion is to reject the committee report. The motion is, Rep. Nguyen, restate your motion, please.
I motion to adopt the committee report.
Got it. So the motion is to adopt the committee report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
The noes have it. The committee report has not been adopted. Representative Nguyen.
I have an amendment that will be I move to add this amendment. Sorry. I got my script. Yeah. I move to this amendment to the bill and ask this to be displayed.
What amendment are you moving, Representative Nguyen?
This amendment is L001 or 005. Thank you.
That is a proper motion. Amendment L5 has been displayed to the amendment.
So I joined this as a
Representative-
co-prime
Representative
sponsor.
Nguyen.
Sorry.
Representative Nguyen.
Thank you, Chair. I joined this as a co-prime sponsor because I agree that public notices should not be kept behind paywalls. The bill as introduced.
Representative Nguyen, I'm going to ask you to withdraw Amendment L005. Unfortunately, it has come to my attention that this is to the committee report that was not adopted.
Oh, no.
The committee will go into a brief recess.
Oh, no.
The committee will come back to order. Representative Nguyen.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move.
Representative Nguyen, before we proceed, could you withdraw your previous motion?
Yes, of course. I withdraw my previous motion to add Amendment 1-5.
You mean L005?
L005.
That is a proper motion. Amendment L005 has been withdrawn. Representative Nguyen.
I would like to move to add Amendment L-006 to the committee report. And it has to be displayed. Sorry.
Representative Nguyen, would you like to restate?
My apologies. I wish to move LL006 to HB 26-1095. And it has to be displayed.
The motion to move Amendment L6 to House Bill 1095 is proper, and it has been displayed. To the amendment, Representative Nguyen.
Thank you very much. So I joined this as a co-prime sponsor because I want to make sure that we are giving an option to newspapers to submit public notices and also to narrow the title of the bill. So what this does is that this allows public notices to be easily accessible, which this amendment accomplishes while preserving the independence of public notices.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Representative Sukla.
Vote yes.
Any further discussion on Amendment L6? Seeing none, the question before us is passage of Amendment L6. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Amendment L6 passes. To the bill, Representative Sukla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a good bill. This helps people that are poor, and I would say vote yes.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1095? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1095 as amended. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1095 as amended passes. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Bill 64.
Senate Bill 64 by Senators Simpson and Roberts, also Representatives McCormick and Soper, concerning modifying the Colorado Agricultural Future Loan Program to allow certain eligible entities to qualify for funding from the program.
Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 26-064.
That is a proper motion. To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill builds on a bill from 2021, Senate Bill 21-248, which established the Agricultural Future Loan Program. And we know we have hard data that shows that Colorado is leading the nation in a way that we don't want to be leading the nation, where we're losing agricultural land, especially over the last 5 years, from farms and ranches across our state. And we do have many tools for land conservation, but there's not currently a short-term nimble loan program that is specifically focused on protecting viable farms and ranches for the primary sake of their agricultural value. And this loan program was set up to help get new farmers and ranchers to be able to purchase land so they can continue the purpose of that land into the future. And as we know, land is very expensive, and many of those new farmers and ranchers do not have the ability to get a loan for those large amounts. And often the agricultural value of the land is not enough to pay for market value of that land. So this bill adds a new category of loans that are allowed under the existing Agricultural Future Loans Program. It adds a definition of an eligible entity that includes organizations in Colorado, namely certified, state-certified land trust and water conservation and conservancy districts. And these entities can apply for that loan through the existing program and be able to work with the Department of Agriculture and their financial institution that actually handles these loans to be able to sell to that farmer or rancher that is interested in continuing the agricultural production on that land. This program has been very successful over the years. Back in 2021, it received $30 million of state COVID stimulus funds, and there have been $7 million in grants and $23 million to the revolving loan program. So as these farmers get this loan, they are paying it back usually within a few years, and that money can be reloaned out to new farmers for us to be able to save ag land. And I'm happy to be on this bill with my co-prime sponsor, and I urge a yes vote.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm also honored to be on this bill with Representative McCormick. Members, we're losing farmland in Colorado at an alarming rate. Over the last 5 years, 1.6 million acres of prime farmland has been taken out of production, including a number of prized ranches within my district. The ability to get the next generation into farming and ranching is important. Many don't have the capital to be able to go right out and purchase a farm, and certainly to borrow money on the open market to buy a farm is not always feasible. It's not always worth it. The state set up a future farmer loan program. We're adding to that program for the entities in which the money can pass through to irrigation and conservation and water districts. What happens is they're able to leverage it's really private dollars, loan dollars, move the land into a conservation easement, and then sell to a new farmer at a discounted rate. That allows the next generation to be able to get into agriculture. It allows the state to provide one more opportunity along with numerous other opportunities for new farmers that we have out there, and I certainly would encourage a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 64? Seeing none, the question before us is its passage. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Senate Bill 64 is adopted. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of House Bill 1258.
House Bill 1258 by Representatives Soper and Titone, also Senators Roberts and Pelton R, concerning death.
Representative Titone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That is the title of the bill. I move House Bill 1258
No, the committee report.
and the committee report. We just have to move it.
To the committee report. Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L007 to the committee report and ask that it be properly displayed.
L7 is displayed. To the amendment, Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, we had a conversation about abuse of a corpse within committee and being more specific, because right now, under current law, it talks about reasonable family sensitivities. That's more a civil law standard, not a criminal standard. We really don't want the elements to be void for vagueness, and so we're including a list of what constitutes abuse of a corpse that the courts would be able to consider, so that we're very specific and that this is not just an open-ended statutory provision.
Representative Titone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we had some really good conversations with the stakeholders on this amendment. We wanted to make sure we got it all right when it comes to the transportation and the storage. And this is really in reference to a lot of the abuses that we've seen and that we are responding to, because this is, there were atrocious actions that were happening, and this will give the DAs some tools to be able to understand what is abuse of a corpse. If we do find any more abuses like this in a corpse, we are asking for a yes on this amendment.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is its passage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? L7 is adopted. To the committee report.
Oh, that's
No, just
I'll just like talk about yeah.
Representative Titone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in the committee report, we did a couple other amendments. We adjusted the felony part from a 6 to a 5 on the abuse of a corpse. We wanted to make sure we're sending a message to folks abusing corpses in our state that we will not tolerate it, and we'll have a bigger penalty for that. We adjusted a couple things also on the definitions to make sure we had funeral directors were not always present when a cremation was present. Some of the morticians and the facility owners don't have the crematoriums on site. They contract with someone, but we didn't want them to be there to have that done. The crematorium folks are licensed on their own, so we made that separate so they didn't have to be present. There was a clarification there. So the committee report has a lot of fixes to the bill. We ask for a yes, and the committee report is amended.
Is there any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is its passage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The committee report is adopted. To the bill. Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, it wouldn't be a good bill if you don't add a couple of amendments to it. I move amendment L006 and ask that it be properly displayed. Okay.
The amendment is displayed. To the amendment, Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, we actually inadvertently deleted some of the unlawful practices concerning cremations, and we wanted to make sure that we kept this in statute. So this is actually current law just being moved over with the other unlawful acts.
Is there any further discussion on L006? Seeing none, the question is its passage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? L6 is adopted. To the bill. Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, over the last number of years, we've had some very horrific stories related to the Colorado funeral industry. Starting when I was first elected in 2018, we had the Sunset Mesa atrocity that occurred in Montrose, in which the owners of a funeral home were selling bodies and giving the families pieces of concrete and said it was human remains. More recently, we've had the case down in Penrose where they had bodies stacked like cords of wood in a warehouse because they didn't end up doing the work. That led to this body changing law to actually regulate the funeral industry. In 1983, Colorado let lapse licensure and regulation of the funeral industry, and then it took over 40 years for us to bring that back. We had a trio of 3 bills in 2024 to regulate the business entity, the individuals who work in the entity, and then body brokers, those who trade in bodies. We had a conforming bill last year for the transport side, but this year's bill concerns cleaning up what we have known over the last couple of years, because full licensure comes into effect on January 1st of 2027. And we're in a 2-year probationary window, so the industry actually came to us and said, we have some ideas on how to streamline things, how to work better. So instead of having a registered designee at each location, a registered designee could be under multiple locations under the same ownership. We just need someone as a state to hold the business accountable if something goes wrong. And then everyone is still going to be licensed in this, but we want to make sure that you don't have a funeral director who has to be hovering over a cremationist when a cremation is done. We also defined an affiliate location, those that are support locations of funeral homes, which didn't exist before. We look at the transport side, the abuse of the corpse statute, and then made sure that we had conforming language to ensure that it's both streamlined for those who work in the industry, but also gives us as a state the ability to regulate and police funeral homes and those who work there to guarantee to the public a demonstration of competency and a sense of assurance.
Representative Titone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a cleanup bill for a lot of work that we've done, and it's a really important statute that we're putting in place. We are the last state to have any kind of regulation in this, and you've seen what lack of regulation can lead to. Those folks had to be victims of their own loved one's death the second time, and that is an atrocity. So we are fixing a lot of the statute here and making it so that way people can still remain in the business. People are not dying to get these certifications or licenses, but we have to have a system where we're getting folks into the business and keeping the people who are in the business already. There are a lot of good people in the business working this, and we have to make sure that we're doing this. But this is the last bill that Rep. Soper and I are doing on the topic of death. I think the bill concerning death is a very fitting topic for that. And because of this, and because of the special year that we are in Colorado and for the United States, I move Amendment L004 and ask for it to be displayed.
Members, the Majority Leader policy requires distribution of multi-page floor amendments by 4:30 p.m. the day before the bill is heard. This bill was received on March 9th at 4:07 p.m. and was distributed, but was accidentally stamped as being received on March 4th. You received a corrected copy this morning, and it is now properly displayed. Representative Titone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And you may not get the whole picture literally here, but this is text. It's not an image, because that would be against the rules. The amendment is made out of text, but you'll look at the title of the bill. It changes the short title of this policy to say that there are two things certain in life: death and taxes. And I think that it's important that we commemorate death and taxes with the anniversary of the state and the country and the concerning death bill. And we ask for a no vote on this amendment. A no vote on the amendment.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L004? Seeing none, the question before us is its passage. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
Amendment L004 is lost to the bill. Is there Representative Soper?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I move Amendment L008 and ask that it be properly displayed. I'm going to ask that it be improperly displayed.
That is a proper motion. L008 is displayed. Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in our negotiations all throughout these years, a lobbyist named Jason Hopfer said he was involved with everything, and he thought he deserved to have a bill named after him. So I said, I'll run that amendment to name the bill after him. That being said, we'll withdraw this amendment.
The amendment has been withdrawn. Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1258 as amended? All right, seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1258 as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. House Bill 1258 as amended is adopted.
We need to sign.
Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1090.
House Bill 1090 by Representatives Luck and Martinez, also Senator Gonzalez, concerning teacher licensing requirements.
Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It is an honor to serve with you.
I move House Bill 1090 and the Education Committee report.
To the committee report.
Members, we just had a few technical cleanups in the bill with this, and then we'll also explain. We'll move a couple amendments that reflect the bill changes in more depth once we get to the bill. So we just request an aye vote on the committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the committee report? Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did just want to put on the record, we did strike a section related to the licensing of teachers and the requirements that they have to go through to get licensed when they have received their bachelor's degree in another state but didn't go through the complete process of licensure. We took that out because the conversation was incomplete, but I just want to put on the record that the conversation is incomplete, and hopefully someone will pick it up for the future.
Is there any further discussion on the Education Committee report? Seeing none, the question is its passage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So House Bill 1090 reflects kind of my work that I've done in the legislature around those that have gotten in trouble, those that have made some mistakes, and really wanting to get their life together and being able to become productive members of society, really in helping out and being able to lend those life stories, those experiences into those that they're helping. And so with House Bill 1090, this bill is really aimed at those that are otherwise qualified to be teachers in the space that it may have made a mistake in college or right when they turned 18 for a misdemeanor offense, and that's on their record. And so when they're applying for a teacher job, licensure, they have to bring this information up. They have to be able to present this and kind of relive past traumas, experiences, and then really having that weight on them that really is unnecessary. Myself and my good co-prime from Penrose have been working on this for a year plus on this, trying to figure out what really makes sense and being able to really help out those that need. And so I'm really glad that we were able to bring this forward. And so through a lot of stakeholding with the Department of Education, we found out, in essence, that in the business world, you have kind of a statute of limitations. The professional world doesn't look at misdemeanor offenses beyond 7 years. And so, but that was not true for the teacher licensure program. They were looking at that from 8 years on to 12 years. And we asked them, we said, well, has this been helping out the process? Have you been, is this really helping out our teachers? And the answer we got told was, well, we don't, unless it pertains to crimes against children or youth or the at-risk population, we actually don't really look at that. And so we said, why then, if that's the case, then why are we still doing this? Why are we still making them submit all this information when we're not using it? So we are proud to present this bill for you to hear, for you today, and I'll turn it over to my amazing co-prime.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to my amazing co-prime. I appreciate his diligence and persistence in making this bill possible. The best song that I have for this bill is the song that starts out, "So you had a bad day," right? Like, there are times in our lives where you just have a bad day and you make some bad decisions, and maybe those bad decisions spiral into a situation where you find yourself with a misdemeanor, and we just think that you should not live with those bad days indefinitely, that there should be a time at which society says, we're going to forget that day happened. And in this space, we're saying that that is 7 years. After 7 years, we no longer want to know about that bad day unless it involves particular populations of people that you would, as a teacher, be very much connected to. And so that is the impetus for this portion of the bill, and we thank you for your support.
Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So after we got out of committee, and just because due to what we were attempting with this, there ended up being multiple statutes that needed to be addressed as well. So we will run a series of amendments that accomplishes exactly what we had laid out in the bill. Again, that misdemeanor offenses beyond 7 years wouldn't be in the initial application. So that's what the next series of amendments will be. So with that, I move Amendment L2 to House Bill 1090 and ask that it be properly displayed.
That is a proper motion. 1 second. L2 has been properly displayed. To the amendment, Representative Martinez.
Again, this is going into what we had said. There's a couple different statutes that this also pertains by the change of this. And so that's what this amendment is for. So we ask for an aye vote.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just from my side, to provide clarity, what this does is it links it to another section of statute related to when a license can be suspended, and it encompasses misdemeanors that we thought we were encompassing initially, but weren't, things that have to do with sexual abuse and domestic violence. And this is one of 3 amendments that will look exactly the same, but that are as individual pages, because we didn't want a multi-page amendment, and that deal with different sections of the statute as conforming amendments.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L002? Seeing none, the question before us is its passage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. L2 is adopted. Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L3 to House Bill 1090 and ask that it be properly displayed.
That is a proper motion, and L3 is displayed. To the amendment, Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, this is just the second of 3 amendments that all look the same to conform each part of statute to what we've outlined. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on L3? Seeing none, the question before us is its passage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. L3 is adopted. Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L4 to House Bill 1090 and ask that it be displayed slightly to the right.
That is a proper motion, and L4 has been displayed ever so slightly to the right. Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, this is just the series of 3 amendments that we have submitted, and in regards to that statute that we talked about, we request an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L004? Seeing none, the question before us is its passage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. L004 is adopted. Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members, for the help and support on that. Again, we think that this is a good bill. This really just makes sure that otherwise qualified teachers have an easier path to getting in the teaching field, being able to really contribute. And again, I think that those teachers are going to make some of the best teachers that we have by being able to give their life experience to the students. And really, this is removing a barrier that was really unnecessary. And this, again, creates a better path and show that we care about an easy path for teachers in the state of Colorado. And it's been an honor working with my co-prime on this and hopefully successful.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1090?
We're done with that one yet? Oh, then I'm sorry.
Representative Luck.
I'm sorry. Forgive me. So many amendments. I actually have one more to move. This is Amendment L006, and I move it and ask that it be displayed. Sorry, Matt. I'm sorry.
That is a proper motion. 1 second. L6 is properly displayed. To the amendment, Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment comes out of a conversation we had in committee related to the start time for the 7 years. We have chosen the time that other businesses have used in many instances, and that is the date of disposition of the conviction. And so we ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on L006? Seeing none, the question before us is its passage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. L006 is adopted. Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1090 as amended? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1090 as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. House Bill 1090 as amended is adopted. Mr. Shebel, please read the title to House Bill 1191.
House Bill 1191 by Representatives Johnson and Bacon, also Senators Frizzell and Weissman, concerning the examination of a school district that receives state education fund money for capital construction projects for qualified charter schools in the district and in connection therewith, making the state auditor's examination of the school district's records discretionary rather than mandatory.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 26, 1191 to second reading.
To the bill. Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 26, 1191 came from the Audit Committee. This is a confirming bill Senate Bill 21-198 was recommended by the Legislative Audit Committee, which repealed a requirement that the state auditor annually report to the General Assembly on the use of state education fund money for school capital construction. However, in 2021, they did not include certain confirming amendments necessary to repeal all references to the audit requirement. This bill does just that to make sure we're following what we wanted to do in 2021. This makes it where should a school district that offers these capital development funds for their charter schools need an audit, that's at the discretion of the auditor, but we're not having to add extra paperwork and undue burden and processes for the school districts in compliance every single year, and urge a yes vote.
Representative Bacon.
Thank you, members. This bill comes from the Legislative Audit Committee at the request of the state auditor to clarify and to clean up their expectations. Again, as my co-prime mentioned, we passed a bill a couple of years ago to remove this work from statute as it was no longer relevant given the changes that we made with funding these projects. Again, members, this is a change not necessarily to the fund itself or if the fund would be audited. This change is just about the auditors' need to annually examine particular records that they have found to not be necessary. Therefore, it is a savings in time and capacity. And with that, we urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1191? Seeing none, the question before us is its passage. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. House Bill 1191 is passed.
Madam Majority Leader,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
you have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
The House will come back to order. Mr. Shebo, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report as under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof and making the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1089 is amended, 1090 is amended, 1095, 1191, and 1258 is amended, passed on second reading, ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third and final passage. Senate Bills 13 is amended, 34, and 64 passed on second reading, ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Representative Camacho. There are amendments at the desk. Mr. Shebo, please read the title of the Titone Amendment.
Representatives Soper and Titone move to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Titone Amendment, L4 to House Bill 1258, to show that said amendment passed and that House Bill 1258 is amended passed.
Representative Titone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Titone Amendment and ask for it to be shown as it is.
Please speak to your amendment.
Perfect. Thank you, members. We are making history today, members, as we put a picture in the journal. And this is the picture we're going to put in the journal. This is the center of this thing, and it's going to be in the journal to commemorate the state's sesquicentennial and the U.S. government's, whatever the 250th is called. I don't know what that's called. But it's a big one, and we're asking for a no vote on this. Please vote no on the amendment.
I'd ask for a no vote as well.
No vote.
Further discussion? Seeing none. And Representative Titone, just to clarify, you are asking for a no vote on the amendment. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Titone Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Shebo, please open the machine. Members, please proceed to vote. Representative English is excused. Please close the machine. With 7 aye votes, 50 no votes, and 8 excused, the amendment is lost. Mr. Shebo, please read the Zokai Amendment.
Representatives Soper and Zokai move to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to show that the following Soper Floor Amendment, L6 to Senate Bill 13, did pass, and that the following new amendment to the Soper Floor Amendment, L6 to Senate Bill 13, did pass.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I move the Soper and Zokai Amendment to the Committee of the Whole report.
That's a proper motion.
Properly displayed.
It's before us. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a little bit awkward, but apparently there was a misnumbering, and so this just replaces the amendment that was offered with this new amendment that is numbered correctly.
Representative Zokai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I hope this doesn't invite more questions than answers, but I feel it's important for the legislative record to say we did confirm the promiscuous king's wife was of age, and now we do ask for a yes vote on this amendment.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Soper and Zokai Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Shebo, please open the machine. Members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 52 aye votes, 5 no votes, and 8 excused, the amendment is adopted. The question before us is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Shebo, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 38 aye vote, 19 no, and 8 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Announcements or introductions? Representative Gilchrist.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I just wanted to let the Health and Human Services Committee folks know that we changed the order of the bills being heard today. Will be in this order: 1229, 1241, 1249, 1244, 1262, and 1105. See you there 10 minutes upon adjournment.
Great. 10 minutes upon adjournment. Representative Froelich.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. The Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee will meet at 12:35 LSBA.
Representative Mabry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Judiciary Committee members, we will meet at 12:40 in room 107. We are switching up the order a little bit. Senate Bill 11 will now be our second bill, and Senate Bill 74 will be our last bill. 12:40.
Representative Ricks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Business Affairs and Labor will be meeting upon adjournment tomorrow in room 112. We're going to hear 3 bills, HB 1247, HB 1273, HB 1091, and I'll see you there upon adjournment.
Further announcements. Representative Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Colleagues, I have received permission to be absent on Thursday, March 12th. I will miss you all.
Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I lay over the balance of the calendar until Wednesday, March 11th, 2026.
Seeing no objection, the balance of the calendar will be laid over until Wednesday, March 11th, 2026. Madam Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, I move the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until later today.